morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you happen to be listening. I am just so thrilled and looking forward to the conversation I'm going to have with my guest today. Her name is Sophie Louise Beynon. We met through LinkedIn. She reached out a few weeks ago and we've kind of conversed back and forth, and she was gracious enough to come on the podcast today. And I'm so excited about this conversation. I think that Sophie brings this tremendous value in the work that she's doing. So I'm going to read off the many titles. I tried to memorize them, but I couldn't. So she is a nutrition coach, international health coach, weight loss specialist, personal trainer, and CEO at Sophie Louise Health. She is in Edinburgh. I wanted to say sunny Edinburgh, but I don't know if it's actually sunny there. So I'm so excited that you're here today, Sophie. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
How's the temperature in Scotland? I believe we're having similar weather right now. We're both
We are actually, yeah. We're just heading into the autumn here now. So, and we kind of have a big shift from a bit like you, kind of really sunny weather to wow, winter's kind of here, and we've reached that now.
Yeah. So I always am excited to like make the wardrobe transition, but at the same time, I'm sad to not like be out in the sun as much and all of that kind of stuff. So the vitamin D deprivation, I feel like, sets in very quickly.
Yeah, we don't have like a wardrobe transition here because we have like all sort of 4 seasons in one day. You kind of have to be prepared to have all of them out in one day.
Ready for everything at all times.
You could need SPF in the morning and like your thermals by the afternoon. It's just like that.
So my sister is a world traveler and she absolutely loves Edinburgh. Like she is beyond jealous right now that I'm speaking to someone in Edinburgh. And for those, I know not everybody's watching on YouTube, but we both have similar backgrounds going on.
You're feeling the natural vibes.
Yes, yours might be more authentic than mine, but
perhaps not.
Okay. You're not in the barn on your property.
Oh, if only I was.
So yes, I'm glad we have some rustic vibes going with the podcast today. This is fun. This is definitely the first time that's happened. So definitely exciting. But I've had an opportunity to chat with you a little bit. I got to listen to a podcast that you did with Kaki Lee, which she's an Australian podcast host, and it was just tremendous. Oh my gosh, like emotional roller coaster for me. But I want the listeners to get an opportunity to know you. So you're obviously very into health and wellness, but also a mom and a wife. And what is that like? Who makes up home for you right now?
Yeah, we have a busy house. There's 6 of us in our house. And now we've just expanded to 4 cats as well. So it's like I'm obsessed with large numbers. But yeah, I have 4 children now, a boy and 3 girls. We have Willow, Blossom, and Autumn, and Joel. So they're 11, 12, 14, and 15 now. So it's just, yeah, it's life with preteens, teens, you know. It's nice. They've reached that age where you can have like an actual conversation that's quite, you know, really kind of in-depth conversations with them now, which is nice when they talk. Yes. When they interact with you. Yeah. But actually, no, it's nice, and they're all forming these real characters that are so kind of unique and theirs, which is just lovely. I love that.
Yeah. And it's so funny how obviously you're raising them all in the same house. And I always thought, you know, growing up, I'm like, we should all be treated the same. But the funny thing is, like, they're like different from the onset. Like you don't even baby them the same way.
Yeah, very different. So different. And it was funny because when we had them, we had like 4 in 4.5 years. So it was but every time we had one, they looked exactly the same. And everybody would joke and say, do you not do like another type? And I was like, no, apparently not. But they look so alike, but are very, very, very unique in their own ways. Yeah, they all have their different strengths and qualities and their different personalities. And it never makes for a dull household.
Oh, definitely. Probably not. Do you find that like, are they all quiet at the same time, or is it kind of like you can have a rotation of like which one's feeling talkative on a different day?
I think, I think my husband always jokes that they're all kind of chiefs and no Indians in our house. Everybody wants to talk at once.
Yes.
And now and again, someone will come and visit and they'll say, how do you do it? How can you like possibly tune into 4 different conversations at once? And it's just a skill I think you develop as a mum of 4. But yeah, everybody is of the perception that they're all equally as important and that their opinion needs to be heard right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Usually like if you're on the phone with somebody.
Yeah, usually. So you do get used to tuning into a lot of different things all at once, which it's great because they're all very confident and, and not shy in coming forward, which is lovely,
Yeah.
But yeah, they kind of, they're all happy to have their say.
Well, and it's good that they have opinions, it'd be like, it's more, I think it's more concerning when they, shrug and say, I don't know, or I don't care. So yeah, which I do have one that's very much like go with the flow with everything. And so trying to get him out of his shell a little bit has been interesting, but yeah, I did, they do all talk at the same time. Like dinner can be a little chaotic, but it's good. It's so much better than silence.
Oh yeah, and we've ever since they were teenagers, and we also tiny toddlers, and we've never done it any differently. When we sit at the table, we always sit between them. Instinctively, we always sit in the middle between them all, so nobody can physically get too close to somebody else.
Oh my gosh. And it was funny last week you and I were just like having a chat and getting to know one another. We were talking about having teenage boys and how it's like I felt like it happened so fast. Like I thought it was going to be like this really slow thing, and like maybe when he was 18 he would look like adultish, but then it was like he was 13 and he looked like an adult. And it's just, how did that happen? It's just crazy.
Oh yeah, it's so scary. And most of my children take after my husband, who's much taller than me. So they're just like head and shoulders above me. And my son's developed this really deep voice, which doesn't match his young face still. He's got this really tiny little young face and a very manly voice. But yeah, no, it's scary when they like my daughter, my youngest daughter's 11 and my height already. And that's kind of weird. Bit difficult to have authority in a situation when
they're taller
when
than
she's
you.
looking you in the eye.
Yeah. My 10-year-old is creeping up on me, and my 7-year-old is measuring on a daily basis. But I'm also like, you got a long ways to go, but it'll probably go fast.
Oh yeah, too fast.
Yeah. So are they actually in school, or what is the environment like for you guys with the whole quarantine and COVID situation?
Yeah, and they've been back to school for about 6-8 weeks now, but it's a different situation now. They have half of the school is bussed away to a different location so that there's fewer children in the school. And they've cut the timetable in half so that they have longer lessons and they're not moving around the school in tight corridors as much. And they have to wear masks if they're in any communal areas at all. My daughter particularly found it strange because it was her first year of high school. Mm-hmm. And because all the teachers were wearing masks, she found them quite intimidating to look at. That was kind of weird. So yeah, it's a different circumstance, and they're finding really sort of 3 hours of one lesson is a really long time, even if you like the subject. Yeah. It's very different. But sadly, our numbers are increasing quite rapidly here in the UK again, just in the last week. So they're hoping to stay in school, but it's just, how it kind of plays out over the next few weeks will be interesting.
Yeah. It seems very, like, still a very touch and go situation, which I thought I don't know. I always think like, well, next month it'll feel more controlled, but it doesn't really quite seem to happen.
No. And in fairness, sort of, you have to go through that kind of stage of trying to get back to some kind of a normality to see how things go. And of course, it's now that we're kind of finding that we're heading into autumn and just that second wave is kind of setting in here. And it's just finding that happy medium between living and doing all the things that we need to do, and educating children and going to work and trying to keep the numbers down as much as possible. It's kind of a tricky balance at the moment. I think they're still kind of feeling that one out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I mean, the good thing is that the struggle is universal. And that's something I think that you and I are going to dig into some more, because I just feel like it's very easy for us to look at situations and feel very isolated by those situations. And especially when you're dealing with a quarantine situation where you are physically isolated, but really being able to push outside of that and really start to find community and support where you really need it. And so I think that's part of what just like immediately attracted me to you when you reached out, is just like I could feel that the way that you reached out, the questions that you asked, I was like, oh my gosh, like there's like this warmth and welcoming about you. And so then to really dig into the work that you do, and like I'm just like, if I could explain like how much I love the things that you emphasize, like I don't know that I can properly put it into words, but I'm certainly going to try over this podcast. But since I've shared all of those many titles and expertise that you carry, why don't you walk us through like how you came about figuring out that this is what you wanted to do, that this was your passion, and how that journey has been for you.
It's been a long journey for me. Obviously, kind of sort of, it's only been in kind of recent years since the children have got older that I've kind of been in a position to really kind of dig into sort of expanding my skill set and really kind of honing that real kind of ability to deal with people's health on a real kind of holistic kind of 360 degree kind of view. But it really stems from when my passion comes from really when I was younger. I'm struggling with issues with my health at a much younger age, and I kind of always knew that would eventually lead me to helping others and to supporting others. But sort of it took a long time to really get to that place where I knew exactly how that was going to go, and to feel so ready to do that. I think I needed to know that I was in the best place possible to be able to then help other people.
Yeah, which is just, and the work that you've done is just tremendous. So I was listening to your podcast with Kaki, and it was just, I think it's very easy to like look at our health and fitness and really try and categorize it. And compartmentalize it and not really look at the whole thing. And you did talk about like your struggles with body image and things like that, which I feel like it's so real and it's so prevalent. And like, as you raise daughters, I'm sure you feel even more hyper aware of it. Once I had a daughter, I was just like, I know she's watching. I know she's watching all the time. She's hearing what I say. And how do I really get myself in a better mindset? And I feel like this is going to be like an ongoing thing for me. Like, I don't think like I'm going to master it anytime soon, but finding the right tools to continue working on that is something that I find very important in my own journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're just so perceptive of everything that we do, the way our self-talk, the way they hear us talk about ourselves, all of those tiny things. They're just sponges for just that all the time. And even if we're not conscious of it, it's just the tiny little things that we might say and do that they pick up on. And, as a mum of 3 daughters, I'm exactly the same. I just was always very conscious of being a good role model. And like you said, it's an ever evolving process. My daughters at different ages going through different things, and it's funny, I've noticed as they've got older, they've kind of become closer to me because they're kind of more needing that kind of female role model and input. And I'm very mindful of how they absorb things and how it forms their opinion of the way they view themselves.
Yeah, and I feel like there's so many external influences. Like especially like I am not demonizing social media by any stretch of the imagination. That's where we live. This is where we thrive. This is where we make connections. Like there is so much value in it, but also recognizing the impact that it has on my kids, and especially my daughter, who is super impressionable. Also like making sure that I don't pass on my insecurities to her. So for me, like, it's always been like, I guess there's like body dysmorphia issues. There's like my relationship with food probably has never really been a healthy one. I don't even know that my relationship with exercise, like, I believe in health. I believe in fitness. I adopted a vegan lifestyle 3 years ago. And I love it. Like, I don't like most of these things, I think I manage pretty well, but then it's like you can teeter one way or the other. And so, like, I don't weigh myself, so I don't necessarily know what I weigh at any given time. But also recognizing that I was using food as control.
Yeah.
And like really, being in therapy and listening to my kid's pediatrician, who was not even talking to me, he's talking to my son about the importance of sleep and how if we don't sleep, our bodies don't do what they need to do, and you can't actually be as healthy as you should be. I was very much into super intermittent fasting, and I've done some pretty extreme cleansing and dieting and things like that, all categorized under discipline. Like I'm very disciplined about what I do and what I put in my body, but not really recognizing that I wasn't dealing with the way that I felt about it, like the actual psychological relationship that I had with food and exercise, that I wasn't enjoying it. I was just doing it to be disciplined and to hopefully get results that I wanted. So how do we, like,
yeah,
which I know is like a ton, like, and I'm asking, can you just unpack that for me, Sophie? But I think that this is what you do, right? This is what you help women get past these kind of mental blocks that are created, these relationships that they have with different aspects of their health.
Yeah, and it's unique to every person that I deal with, really, and everybody has a different rooted emotion in what's going on, and sometimes control can be a funny thing because it can really mask the fact that you feel like you're lacking control in other areas of your life, that you kind of feel this is the one thing that you can control. It's about finding where is that need for control and discipline coming from, and sometimes when I work with clients, that can be rooted in their childhood. It can be something that's really sort of a long time ago, and others more recent events. But it's always that the sort of the behavior we have around food and exercise is always rooted in something else. And you're right, sometimes we can have just the best of intentions, and we see discipline around food. I'm not a big fan of the word willpower, because and I come across people all the time that sort of seek my help and say, oh, I just have no willpower. And it's not about willpower. It's again, it's just this concept of discipline always being a good thing. And it's not ever about feeling like you have to do something. It's choosing to do something. It's then you're coming at it from an empowered point of view. You're actually feeling like I have the power and the knowledge to want to nourish my body the way I want to, not because I feel I have to. And like you said, if you're not enjoying it, then it's a bad thing. Ultimately, even if you're eating all the right things and seemingly exercising the right way, if throughout that process you're not enjoying it, then somehow you're going about it the wrong way, and it is about finding that balance of people where they do feel empowered, they're making choices for themselves, not because they have to, and finding that balance so that people are making choices they want to keep doing for years to come, and not just, because that's where people go wrong, is they kind of go into this realm of super disciplined and extreme, and they're trying really hard, and they kind of pat themselves on the back because they're being so insanely disciplined, but knowing that they will never sustain that in the long term because it's not actually a process that they're enjoying in the least, you know, and then it's not doing them any good.
Yeah. And I just feel like I've lived that. Like I've lived every single bit of that. It's just, it just like, when I look at it now and just really, I would say just in the last 3 months, making a shift, for 9 months, I ate 1 meal a day. That was it. No, I mean, I would have a protein shake, just recognizing that my body needed some nutrition in the middle of the day, but otherwise it was just a light dinner. That was it. But I wasn't sleeping. I never really lost any weight from doing it. I just told myself like, this is going to eventually pay off. And as I was sitting in therapy and you know, talking to my therapist, and she's like, this is not healthy. Like, this isn't sustainable. It's not healthy. Let's talk about moderation, and let's talk about repairing this relationship that you have with food. And so just really in the last 3 months, giving myself permission to eat when I feel like hungry. And, you know, like, hey, maybe your body's cluing you into something right now. And really, like, actually listening to my body. Now, I will say I've probably gone 900 days without missing a workout. Like, and I don't
What's
even.
really funny is for anybody listening, they can't see me shaking, or they can't hear me shaking my head at you going, no.
Like, I don't even know. Now it's just like this crazy ticker that's going in my head all the time. Like, but also like, and I do truly enjoy it, but also recognizing that, again, it's a control thing. It's like tally marks on a page and that kind of thing. And so wanting to make sure that I'm looking at it in a more healthy way, but also like, my kids are watching. I know I said that before, but like, yeah. And it's like, I don't want some badge for this. I don't, you know, but it is, I think it can be a very slippery slope in terms of where do you cross that line between having a good relationship with your health and then having control issues with your health.
Absolutely. And you hit on a really good point there, is that listening to your body is something I talk to my clients about all of the time, about eating intuitively, you know, instinctively knowing. I move right away from calorie counting and restricted diets with my clients. We don't do that at all, because it just, not only is it just terrible sort of like thing to sustain long term, it's like doing algebra at every meal. It's really not worth the trouble, but it also just, it changes our perception of the way that we're looking at food. We stop seeing food for the thing that it is, and it starts to become a number, and its value is just on that number and not how is it feeding and nourishing me? How much do I like to enjoy the food? What, you know, all of those other things that it holds. And it can so easily become an issue where we just stop listening to the cues that our bodies are naturally giving us. And that applies to both food and exercise. And we kind of, again, in this need to control and have discipline, there's a mindset that so many people adopt, and I'm sure this will resonate with a lot of people, is that when you feel hungry and you deny your body something, you kind of feel like you've achieved something, and kind of that, like, do you know what, I'm hungry, but I'm gonna know, do you know, I'm gonna have some willpower now, and I'm doing a good thing. I feel like I've achieved something in saying no to my body, you know, and saying like, yes, I'm hungry, but you know what? No, I'm gonna be disciplined, and the same with exercise. There's, like you said, you haven't had a day off in way too long. Let's just say that. And we get used to this feeling of like, you know, yes, I'm exhausted, and yes, I'm sore from the day before. But you know, it's character building to push through that, you know, to like not listen to my body telling me that actually today would be a good idea to just do nothing, or to just really dial it down. You know, if the kind of person that needs to just move every day, there are a billion ways to do that. You know, if you just need to do some kind of movement. But again, it's this thing of, it's character building, not listening to what our body's telling us, and instead going the other way and kind of enduring something. And people get sort of sucked into this like cycle of endurance all of the time, thinking that we are doing good things for ourselves, when actually, your body is so insanely clever that it's when we listen to it that actually all the good things happen, that we do become in the best of health.
Yeah. So I was just, as I was thinking about listening to that interview that you did and, researching the work that you do every day with your clients, and also like the delicious food. Okay. Because there is this perception that healthy food just all tastes like dry kale. Like,
yeah, there is definitely.
People are like, oh yeah, I love kale. Well, do you really? Like we don't, like, I haven't always been good about eating food that I actually liked. Like I would make these really horrible recipes of these, this is a detox soup that I'm going to eat for 5 days. And it was torture and I hated it, but I was like, no, this is the right thing to do. But I think that, so I'm thinking back to when you reached out to me and, and I was like, I'm actually, I am physically in the best shape of my life right now, which, but it also has been a process of really just, it's been a mental shift. It really has been to like, yes, I will allow myself to, which again, still working on this. When I feel hungry, I will eat something, and it's not necessarily going to be, celery and hummus. Like I'm going to choose something that I really feel is yummy. Now I love hummus and I will eat hummus all day long. But really allowing myself to enjoy food, and not just look at it as a nutrition source, but also something that makes me happy, like it just like, it brings me joy. The flavor is good. I enjoy dining with people. Like friends got tired of eating with me. They were like, no, this is just insane for us. Like you're literally drinking water, we're eating type of thing. Like it's just not fun anymore. And so like realizing how it was changing my friendships. So like as I feel like I've gotten a healthier relationship with all of those different facets, and it's taking time. But yeah, so it was just, I think that as I said that, made that comment back to you, and as I've thought about it some more, there was this weird moment where I was like, was it okay for me to say that? For one, was that braggy for me to say it? But like, how do you encourage women to like be proud of what they accomplish? Because this is where I struggle. Like, I want to be proud of my body, but I don't want it to be my identity either.
And it's a very, it's such a personal thing for women, and such a sensitive topic for so many people. It's so alien to some people, just that whole process of being able to talk openly about our body and the way we feel about it. Sometimes when you sit down with somebody, it's the first time somebody has ever in their life directly asked them, how do you genuinely feel about it? What is your relationship with your body like? And people do have very mixed emotions about not only kind of loving their own, loving the skin that they're in their own body, but also being proud to do that and not feel like they're somehow showing off or kind of going to be perceived as kind of in a negative way. And particularly our friendships have a real direct kind of correlation on our own health. And sometimes people feel pressure if their friends are a different size. Mm-hmm. It can be really difficult. And like you said, in a social situation when your friends are perhaps eating and drinking one way and it can affect your relationships. And very often people haven't even stopped to think about how they feel about their own body, or they feel negatively, but a bit like other things, they kind of, because they feel negatively, they're just going to kind of keep putting it to the back of their mind and not really face up to what is it that they're not comfortable with. It's really about sort of helping people to get in touch with what is it that feels good about their body, what do they love, and learning to love the bits. We're all going to have, doesn't matter who you are, everyone's going to have bits that they love and the bits that they don't love so much. We're all of us the same. Social media again, I'm not a hater of social media, but it doesn't help the situation in many respects. And I see it even with my teenage daughter that, you know, the size and shape of the people that she follows, that she kind of emulates, is it's so unusual, and it's not the natural way that everybody would look. That kind of aspiring to look that way is just, it's like trying to mimic a Barbie doll or something that actually isn't real. And they don't really understand that. So there are so many things that feed into our perception of what we believe to be an ideal body. You know, like, everybody's different. For some people, they love being athletic. Some people love bulking up a bit more, while other people like being slim. Everybody has their own, and it's about really helping people just to love their bodies the way they are, and find the bits that they can control. You know, there are bits of us that, you know, I would love to be several inches taller, but that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen for me. But there are things that we can control, and in a gentle way. It's just remembering to, if there's something that we're not comfortable with, that is within our control, how can we do it in that gentle, safe kind of way, where we're being kind to ourselves and not punishing ourselves in the process.
Yes. And I think that, gosh, that whole idea of punishing ourselves with food and with exercise. And for me, I think I've always used my food and my weight, which, not necessarily knowing my weight, but my appearance, as sources of validation, and really having to get past that. It's just such an interesting process for me, where I can take a compliment and be thankful for what somebody has said, but also not internalize it.
Yeah.
It's a tricky path, and but it's a necessary practice for me.
Yeah, and we become, it's very easy for us, I think, at particularly certain stages of our life, but we can become very focused on our appearance, and, like you said, attach a lot of worth to that. And the way that I work with people is very much, as you know, focusing on all of the areas of their life and not just that one thing. And it's when the other areas of our life are lacking somehow, that things like food and our body become bigger issues than they actually need to be. Mm-hmm. You know, in the perspective of our life as a whole, food should be a small thing. You know, it can be something that we love and that we enjoy, but just that something that just basically fuels the rest of all the things that you have going on. All of the other things sort of requiring your attention, and the other things that you're getting nourishment from in a different way. Yeah. Because our nourishment it comes from so many different sources, and not just the food on our plate. And it's when those things are out of balance that these things become more in our focus, because there's actually something lacking somewhere else, or we just could do with balancing out some of the other areas of our life, so that our appearance and everything isn't just focused on that one thing, or that we're not attaching all of our worth to that. And actually we can see so much value and worth, you know, with regards to ourselves in so many other ways. You know, it's just about kind of expanding that view out and bringing it back into perspective. For a lot of people, it's become out of perspective. And if it's, I said it before, but if it's the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning is either your body or food, or if it's the last thing you think about at night, then it's gone into a place where it's not healthy, and other parts of your life need more focus.
Yeah, and I think that it's hard to look at all of those things and see that they're interwoven.
Yeah.
That if you can't get them all in like you said, a healthy balance, then your teeter-totter's off somewhere. And how do you really start to pull all of that back together? It was funny. I had, because people just know, I do kind of eat some different food, but I truly enjoy it. I will eat tofu, and I will do all sorts of things with tofu, and I will love it. And there are other vegan things that people love and I don't love. And you can have a very unhealthy vegan lifestyle. You can eat all of the processed junk you want. You can eat Oreos every day because they're vegan. But my daughter's friend was asking me, like, we were baking, and she's like, you're not going to eat any of this. I'm like, well, none of it's vegan, so I'm not going to eat it. But she was like, what's your favorite snack food? And I was like, French fries. She's like, what? Like, her mind was just like, no, I've never seen you eat French fries. And I was like, we're going to put French fries in the oven right now. And so now every time she comes over, she assumes we're eating fries. But I was like, if I could have anything for my birthday, it would be a vegan donut filled with French fries. Like, that's like heaven to me. Like, I just, what I want, that, like, the idea of that makes me very happy. And for a long time I was like, no, like, I would have a protein shake for my birthday. Like, I would make up some dumb thing that I thought was like the right answer, and not really acknowledge there are times that, yeah, I want some junk food. Like, I want it. And if I deprive myself, then I'm going to eat 10 times more of it than if I had just, like, allowed the craving when it happened.
And that's absolutely it. I mean, there are so many reasons why we crave things. Again, your body's really clever at teaching you, you know, it kind of making you crave certain things for a reason. And it could be that your body is lacking in a particular thing, and it's making you crave something that's perhaps salty or sweet. And sometimes it's the textures of food that we crave rather than the actual food itself. And sometimes they are rooted in emotions. You know, we crave something comforting because actually we want comfort, emotional comfort in our life, and we're seeking it in food instead. But you're absolutely right that it's when we sort of try and deny ourselves the things that we really, really do want completely, and we kind of blanket that out, that all it does is feed that need to have that even more.
Yeah.
And you're far better to say, you know, when you go out for dinner with your friends, I'll have dessert and I'll share that with you. You know, we can share a dessert. I don't have to eat it all, because I get that pleasure of experiencing and tasting it, that if I was to deny myself that I wouldn't at all. And it's about knowing it's not an all or nothing situation, because it becomes all or nothing when we try and deny ourselves something. Because like you said, you just go, you know, the more you think about the food that you really want to eat, and the more you avoid that food, then eventually when you do give in, you can eat a ton of the food, because it's been, you know, you've been wanting it for so long. And it's about knowing that actually you can have some, you just don't have to have it all if you don't want to. And if you do, you know, if you have that donut on a day or that slice of cake, it will not ruin your diet. You are still a healthy person. You will not wake up the following morning a stone heavier. You know, the earth will not break open and swallow you up. It's just, and it's that thing. Sometimes people have gone so long without letting themselves just indulge a little bit, that the idea becomes just alien. You know, that concept of, you know, I can actually have something I want. And it's not a fun life when we don't allow ourselves the things that we enjoy, you know. And then that can impact you in social environments when really you kind of want to go out for dinner and your friends and join in with things. And you'd far better to share a dessert with a friend than sort of sit feeling separate to the situation in your own little healthy bubble.
Yeah.
You know, watching your friends having a nice time and having the things that you would really like to be having, because you're not actually getting the nourishment from that social situation. All the nourishment that comes from family and friends and interaction, that starts to affect that. And that's when everything interacts and links in.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah, because I have definitely felt like weird at a party when I'm like, drink some more.
Where's the celery?
Yeah. People are like, oh, I brought hummus for you. I actually came for the fries. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, gosh, I feel like I could talk to you all day. But so one of the things that I have struggled with is just this idea of getting older. And for so long, and I still hear it today, women in my life will be like, oh, just wait till you're 40 and your body goes downhill, and wait till you hit this milestone and your body goes downhill. And so there's always been this weird anxiety in me. I don't care about turning 40. I care about like my body, like just like falling apart or turning on me or something. And I feel like as I get closer to that age, like I don't want to revert back to old ways of thinking, but how, like, is it true? And
please tell me it isn't.
to tell me all the secrets. But I mean, like, is that, I know our bodies go through a natural process of, you know, like there's changes that happen, but like, is there a healthy approach to take to making sure that we're keeping things in check, but also like honoring the changes that our bodies are going through?
Yeah, absolutely. I am all for rolling with the changes. You know, that life is so organic. We go through so many different chapters. Our body, particularly as women, like, you know, if you've had a family, I work with people that have gone through the menopause. You know, we all have these different periods in our life when our body adapts in different ways, and fighting against that process is never going to result in you being happy and in your body kind of playing along. It's about supporting your body through that process and acknowledging it, you know, that it's there and it's going to happen. But there are definitely ways where you can support yourself to be in the best of health in those situations, so that when you experience things like the menopause, or when you're recovering from having children, that process can be entirely different. And simple things like, you know, having a whole food, healthy diet, you know, where we, particularly when our hormones come into play, you know, our hormones govern so many processes within our body. And everything from the quality of your skin as you age, and your hair, and all those things that we as women, it's the very first thing that you kind of tend to think of, are very much affected by hormone function within our body, and whether or not we have a healthy gut microbiome. All of those things that go on within us need to be fed and nourished. And when we fight against it and we kind of think, right, I'll adopt a fasting kind of thing now because that's going to help me keep control of my weight at this point. Actually, it might be that your body needs, you know, particularly if you're going through areas of like fatigue, that actually and you've got hormonal kind of highs and lows, your body needs that regular nourishment all the time to keep it in check, to keep your blood sugar levels kind of nice and balanced, and your hormone levels nice and balanced, so that as you go through those processes, you can support your body in dealing with it the best way that it can. And definitely from a physical point of view, our bodies change. You know, we lose muscle tone, and you kind of very often you decide, your body kind of decides to deposit bulk where you didn't have it before, and it takes it away from where you'd like it. You know, so it's never you kind of, and it's not like, you know, you ever wake up one day and it's just gone, but gradually what happens over time is that you do lose shape and form where a lot of people prefer to have it, and sometimes people become very conscious of carrying extra weight around the middle or their waist, and these things can happen, but there are so many ways to deal with that. I'm a huge believer in thinking ahead when it comes to our health. Everything I teach people to do is about not just, I mean, I'm way past focusing on, you know, the bikini diet for the summer, and it's way into kind of, am I going to be fit and healthy well into my later years? You know, am I protecting my bone health and my body's ability to have a good, strong immune system, and my brain health later on in life? You know, am I thinking about these things when I'm nourishing my body? Because we as women are much more prone to dementia and Alzheimer's and other issues later in life compared to men. And over 90% of that is well within our control. It's all to do with how we feed our bodies. Are we resting? Are we reducing our stress levels? These things all contribute to health later on in life. So it's about knowing those things will come, and we will get older, but there's so many ways that we can support our body to deal with that naturally. And there's ways, for instance, if I'm working out with somebody, obviously by helping them to do more resistance work as they get older, you can start to put back bulk where you're losing it, and give your body that sort of strength and shape that you had before when you were younger, and then strengthen your bones at the same time. So it's really about supporting it and rolling with the changes in a really gentle way. But it's really, I think the one thing that I find a lot of women that I speak to feel is they feel like they've lost control over what's happening. Mm-hmm. They feel like these changes are happening regardless of what they try and do, and they're kind of scrabbling around with different diets and different options, and inundated with a sea of information online
Mm-hmm.
and differing opinions, knowing what's right for them, and trying to figure out, well, it's working for somebody I know, so why is it not working for me? Like, because obviously everybody is different. And it's really about kind of just wading through all that confusion and helping people work out something that's working for them, and giving them that back, that control. I think that's the thing, is people want to, I think once they feel they have control, they're much more open to accepting the aging process, and the fact that we are going to get older. But once they feel that they can not stop the kind of process happening, but slow everything down and manage that in a healthy way, then that's where kind of people feel a lot more reassured about and accepting of it, so that I think it's when we feel we've lost control that very often people's approach loses control too, because when they feel they haven't got it, they feel like they have to resort to extreme measures. And like you said, then they sort of sink back into bad habits of going to extremes, of pushing their body too far in an effort to really feel like they can have some control over what's going on.
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel better. And it's funny because it's like, for one, yeah, we are unique creatures, right? Our
Yeah.
makeup is just unique. Our individual DNA and footprint is just all different. Like we're mapped differently. And so always trying to like find some sort of one size fit all solution, or like this is the ultimate thing, or get caught up in infomercials and things like that. Or now they come across my Pinterest feed, I'll be like, oh, this is interesting. There was one I saw the other day and it said like your ideal weight, like you need to measure your wrist and then add, I don't even know, and then like add it to ones. And I was like, oh my God, I'm really obese. And I'm like, oh, I don't understand this. And it was some scandalous thing. I don't even know. But I mean, I think it's important to like you said, to be informed, to have the right set of information, because it is so confusing in terms of what is at our fingertips online.
Oh yeah, and also to not feel bad that something that's working for somebody else isn't working for you. I always give that example of like, when you've got a good friend and they kind of go, oh, I love this shampoo, it's great, you have to try it, it's so good, it's like, my hair is like amazing with this,
Mm-hmm.
and you go out and you buy it and you think, oh, I'm going to have just like the same results and it's going to be great, and you use it and it's like, oh no, it's horrible, my hair's just like, it's it's dull, it's not working, or I can't use it. And everybody has this kind of this thing where everybody feels like because it's working for this person that it should naturally work for them, and we are just different. We need an individual approach to what's going on, because every day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, your life is different to somebody else's. All the demands on your day, all the pressures on your day, your family, your kids, the way your mind works, it's just you, and everybody else is in the same situation. And sort of assuming that what's going to work for you is going to work the same as somebody in a completely different situation, waking up in a completely different house, it just never works. And it just leaves people feeling very frustrated and thinking they're not going to find a solution, when actually it's just about finding what works for them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And oh yeah. So like, this is part of the reason why I'm just in, I don't know, like I feel like I just want to like dig even deeper into the work that you've been doing. It's fascinating. But I'm like, hey, maybe I should ask a few questions from my
No, I love this. This is great.
Yeah, we can talk about anything all day long, but I love this whole idea of holistic health, and how there's so many different things that have to be present, like and there's room for Western approach and the Eastern approach, and and all of that kind of stuff. Like there's not just one way. And there's like, for so long I was so busy taking input from friends and family, and like that worked for you, and this, like, oh, you didn't do that with your kids, I shouldn't, like the echo chamber that starts happening can be very noisy and very confusing. And so being able to say, this is the right decision for me, this is the right decision for my family. This is what works for my body and for my mental health. What, like there are probably things that I do that are part of my natural, like daily process that help me stay grounded, or the things that I need to do to get grounded when things are starting to feel a little bit loose are just going to be different. And they're bits and pieces from different people, like, but it's not one magic recipe that I got from one person or from my mom that was handed down to me. And like, I just implemented it into my life and it, it just magically worked. Like it's not like that. I want it to be that way, but it's not. And life evolves. And so I think the approach that we have to take to it evolves as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What worked for you even 2 years ago might not work for you now. You're as you go through life, you'll have a whole different set of circumstances, and you might really love kind of intense cardio and kind of really kind of intense gym work, and then you might go through a period of your life where it's a bit more stressful, and actually kind of something more restorative like yoga and being gentler on yourself and helping you to de-stress is actually much better for your body in that period of your life. And it's just, it's about just constantly just flowing with the changes and not really trying to stick to, like you said, the same recipe the whole time. Being open-minded to actually listening and saying, great, this made me feel really good when I used to do this a couple of years ago. 2 years ago, I loved running and I love getting up really early in the morning and going outside. And it's okay a couple of years later to go, do you know what? I'm fed up with the rain. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do something different. And that's fine. And it's not that you're tapping out and quitting on yourself. It's about that you're just having the wisdom to know that actually right now something else would be better for you. Mm-hmm. And I think people feel like they're quitting when they want to make a change, and it's not that way.
Yeah, I was listening to this podcast the other day, and and the host made this comment about how this woman had decided not to do a certain event, and she was like a super athlete and whatever, and he thought she was making an excuse about like she made up an excuse to not participate because she couldn't cut it, and and I think he instantly like retracted, saying I think she recognized that it wasn't the right time in her life to be doing that, and that it was going to have a long-term impact that wasn't right for her. But he goes, I do think she felt like she had to publicly make an excuse to not participate. So we do, I think we give others a hard time, but we're certainly harder on ourselves.
Oh, yeah, we are terrible to us. Really, we are. I see people all the time that are wonderful, wonderful people to other people and incredibly mean to themselves. And it's, and we, and it's all in the pursuit of somehow bettering ourselves, and again, like you said, because a lot of the time we attach our worth to the way we look or the way people perceive us to be, mm-hmm. rather than the way we actually genuinely want to feel.
Yeah. And it is, what I found is amazing though, is when you find those other people that like they see you, they recognize who you are. They're not concerned with the aesthetics. They might like the aesthetics, but that's not the reason why they're drawn to you. And so when people really start to get to know you and can see beyond surface level things, like the connection and the relationship there is, it's so different. It's just, and it's like, it's really hard to describe.
I know what you mean. And that's when you forget about, that's when you let go of all those kind of hang-ups and those thoughts in your mind that kind of tick away, and you just connect with people, mm-hmm. And that's what we need to be doing more of, is seeing past that. And I think because of social media being such an aesthetic place, it's funny because you said about food, and I've like hundreds of pictures of food on my Instagram account because I love food. But I remember one day actually posting it up on my Facebook account and actually taking a photo of something like a ready meal or something, like really kind of from the box, and saying, just a reminder that these look really pretty, but sometimes there are days when tea is this, like dinner is this, and it's not always that. And never beat yourself up if you're not serving your kids something that looks like it came out of a restaurant every day. You know, I do this to share because I love food and I'm creative with food.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not because I would ever want somebody to feel pressure that that's what they should be serving up to their family every day, you know, and that it's okay if it's sometimes it's this, it's absolutely fine. And I think sometimes there aren't enough reminders that the things, the images that we see are just really not a real reflection of reality, you know, of the way that people genuinely look when we wake up in the morning. And, you know, it's not all honed and perfected, and life isn't that way, and really shouldn't be. You know, there's no fun if everything is just false and perfect. But it's very easy to get sucked into that thing of needing that kind of, that perfection, that thing that we see so much of.
Yeah. And it's, you know, as you were saying that, I was thinking about like when we look at photos, and, you know, we used to not get to see, like you didn't see people's photos unless you were like at their house. You didn't see their photos, or if they mailed you something, like you just didn't see these things. But it was so rare that, like, I feel like photos then used to capture more emotion, like the humanness. And now, like, we're clicking and shooting all the time. Like, it's just constantly happening. And so the human aspect of our lives is almost like glazed over, and it's just everything else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It has just become so much about the way others view our life, and not, we get so caught up in what will people view of our experience of what we're doing now, rather than just living that experience and enjoying it for what it's worth, and not giving any thought to what anybody else is going to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an interesting process to work through, you know, just wanting to be in touch with people, but also recognizing, like, there are times like I'm just living my life and I forgot to post anything about it. And people, you know, and like you get the reminders like, hey, you haven't posted anything for 3 days. I'll be like, well, I think I was legitimately busy just enjoying the environment I was in at that moment.
Yeah, it's funny. I constantly remind my daughter when we're out and about with this, like you said, this need to share what we're doing, where we are. And I'll say to her, you know, if you don't share it, it's not like it never happened.
Yeah. In the forest.
Yeah, it's almost like that thing of like, if I don't share it, then I don't. And I know that she feels this pressure of kind of like, of always posting that she's got something going on, because people need to think that I'm interesting, that I'm doing things. And again, it's just that outward judgment that we feel. So yeah, I'm a big fan of social media, but it has a lot to answer for as well.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. You have to figure out how to have a healthy relationship with everything in your life, but especially social media. I think the mind warp that can happen as a result it can be certainly dangerous territory, depending on how healthy you feel about yourself in the moment that you start scrolling through anybody else's life.
And if you follow somebody and it doesn't make you good to see what they're posting, if it prompts kind of negative self-talk when you see this, then that's the cue to unfollow. You know, because everybody does it. You follow people and you kind of think, oh, that's really great. But if every time you see something they post, it makes you feel bad about you or your life or your body, then that's the time to kind of go click unfollow and just acknowledge that it's not actually feeding you. It's not serving you in any way to do that. It's not really helping you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I do want to ask a couple of questions. Oh my gosh. I feel like I've stolen a lot of time from you. So we can lightning round these, or we can just kind of like, we'll go through this naturally. But what's one of the biggest lessons that you think has like played a role in what you do now?
I think all of the struggles that I've been through personally have made me who I am. And when we're going through those struggles, we can never see any reason or logic for that event. We can never see any kind of good that could possibly come from an event, particularly if it's traumatic and particularly if it's really something emotional. And I think it's understanding that they all happen for a reason. Everything I've been through throughout my life has led me to be able to be really, really good at helping other people who are struggling. You know, that connection I have with people, when the relief I have from people sometimes when I just say one or two things and somebody kind of breathes and realizes that somebody understands, that then I know that all led me to that point, so that person can then feel better. And for me, it's just knowing that when you're going through tough times, there is a reason for that there is a purpose to it somewhere.
Yeah. So if you could go back and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Follow my intuition, I think. Just really kind of go with my gut. I think I was very particular as a young person. I wanted to please everybody around me at the expense of thinking about what I wanted, you know. And I think just I would follow my gut and really kind of go with the things that I wanted to do rather than trying to focus on what I thought everybody else's expectations were.
Yeah. What does the future hold for you? What are future plans?
I think definitely more work with. I mean, I love working with all people when it comes to health. I love that emotional connection that I make with somebody when they're finding things particularly tough and they need that comfort in somebody understanding and holding a safe space for them to kind of express how they are and continue growing that, continue helping people and just really kind of giving people the opportunity to be able to speak up. People still feel really quite kind of reluctant to admit they still perceive it to be a weakness, to just admit that is an issue with them, and to let them know that it's okay, you know, I think for a lot of people that I've worked with before, it's giving them that opportunity to know there's a different life to the one they're living now. It's not about existing the way, but it's living later on, living in a completely different way. So just to continue doing more of that, definitely.
Yeah, there's always room for change. And I think sometimes it's like, what will everybody think if I start doing things differently, if I start showing up differently? So
yeah, and change is scary. Change is like unknown and uncertain, and it's about shifting your view of change from like a blank canvas that's like, you know, I have no idea what's going to happen if I make this change, what will happen, to actually viewing that as a potential to make what you want to happen, you know, just to really use that as an excuse to kind of create the future you want rather than the one you think you should have. Definitely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. And so now, like, if you could play DJ for 5 minutes and you get to pick the song that everybody has to listen to, what song would you choose?
Oh God, that's a toughie. I love all music. I'm a real kind of, I quite like country music as well. I'm quite surprising. I like everything.
Well, I'll meet you in Nashville anytime you want to go.
Oh yeah, that would be insane. It's funny, my son is really kind of into music from kind of the 70s and 80s, like really kind of, he's just grooving out to everything.
Love it.
And I love that era of of music. The 70s and 80s were just like great times, you know, and music just was uplifting, I think, sometimes a bit more. And yeah, happy tunes. I'm a happy tunes kind of guy. Everybody would be just jamming to everything.
So if you could pick a song from that era, is there one that jumps out?
I like Walking on Sunshine. Do you have Walking on Sunshine? Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I like Walking on Sunshine. That's kind of cool.
I haven't listened
anything.
to that.
Sorry?
I said I haven't listened to that one in a while.
No, it's really kind of, it's just one of those ones I remember that we'd always kind of have fun too. And it's like the happy, I've never been a big fan of kind of sad tunes.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it's just something something you can dance to as well. It has to be you. That's just like the law. You have to be able to dance to it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And there's always lots of music and dancing in my house. So yeah, I mean, and mostly it's just me and my kids rolling their eyes at me, but it's still happening. So
It has to happen.
I mean, I may dance at the grocery store. Just, you have to have fun while you're doing those things. I'm sure everybody in the store is like, what is this woman doing? But
yeah, either that or they're all wishing that they were doing the same thing.
yeah, I'm having lots of fun right now as I choose my avocados carefully. So, oh my gosh. Well, this has been so much fun. I will make sure to put information in the show notes so people can get a hold of you. I know that we're going to stay in touch. I am just, like I said, I'm so thankful for your work and your approach and the mindset that you're helping other people to adopt and get healthier. And yeah, I'm so thankful that you reached out and that we got to have this conversation today. Like, I feel like I've learned so much. So much.
Oh, it's been so much fun.
Yes. Well, I mean, enjoy fall in Edinburgh, and I will enjoy fall in Iowa as the leaves turn and all of those wonderful things happen. But yeah, I look forward to all of our future conversations.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.